but just to, you know, to just to wax philosophical for a minute, men aren't today what we were 30, 40 years ago.
100%.
And I think that I, I don't just want to create fit people or show people how to change their life. I want to improve the quality of men in the world. And it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And I think
Yes.
that being physically ready for whatever makes us stronger as a species, and being having a very male, patriarchal, strong physical presence is a
Mhm.
big part of that. So.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Rise 41 podcast. I'm your host, Gonzalo Gonzo Herrero. And today I have the privilege of having Mr. Mike Horner join me to share a story about a slightly different approach in the bodybuilding space. Everyone has a story. Everyone has their own unique story, but Mike's story hits hard with me because as we were chatting before the the show, we're roughly the same age. I am now locked in doing a show with my son who wants to do a show, which means I'm going to do a show. So I have nothing but questions for Mike. And also his story is, I think, important to share because a lot of people make the assumption that bodybuilding has to be like a young person's game, like for like the kids, for like the teenagers, 20s, maybe in your 30s. But the fact is, it can be a healthy, lifelong pursuit. You know, there are masters at the 40, 50, even 60-year-old range now. And yeah, I'll ask Mike to join us so that he could share his experience. So, Mike, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, Michael Horner. I am a once upon a time fat man who had a really dramatic body transformation in right around 2009. And I've never put the weight back on. At 46, I started bodybuilding competitively, and I had been lifting weights for many years, trying to build the muscle to fill out all that extra skin from being fat. And then at 46, like bodybuilding became the obsession, and
Mhm.
been at it ever since.
Gotcha. So, let's think about that a little bit. So, how much do you lose during that transformation? How long did that take?
So, I was past wanting to ever weigh myself.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I had I think the last time I had weighed myself, I was 320, 325. And I know that I was wearing a size 46 pants,
Gotcha. And how tall are you? Just to have
5'11.
some. Okay. Yeah. So that was a little out of control.
Yeah, that's a lot out of control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was what did you have like the in my case, I have exactly the same similar story as you. I lost about 85, 90 pounds one day. I just in my case it was like that moment of like get to doing it or get to dying. And it was like, let's get to doing it. What
Yeah.
did you have a moment like that? What's it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was more of an evolution than a moment. And I've watched your story, by the way.
Oh,
Fantastic. The your
thank you.
transformation is incredible, and hats off to you. I love the story, and we'll either have to stream this to my page, or I will get to interview you on my channel. I think would be
You
even
got
a
it.
better idea. But I love the body transformation stuff. More so because we see these flashes on Instagram of what was and what is, and the progress of how we got there. But for
Mhm.
me, the most intriguing part and why I like coaching people in body transformations is just what happens on the inside to a person when they finally realize that they're worth more than their body's expressing than they are, and they overcome disordered eating, whether it be childhood trauma, addiction, whatever it is, the reasons why we eat to change the way we feel, and overcoming that is what I love most about that type of coaching and those type of
Yeah.
people, because it really is a transformation, mind, body, and spirit usually. And while the body is easy to see in a picture on Instagram, it's not always easy to see what's going on in the mind and the spirit. And
True.
a fundamental mindset shift is absolutely necessary for these sort of body transformations, as you know. And what happens to your spirit in the process of doing this, and whether you begin the process as a spiritual person or not, there will be some metamorphosis in our spiritual being along that way too, which is something that I love to be a part of. For my journey, though, really began with getting sober. So I spent most of my life addicted to alcohol and other drugs, and I have not really been sober since grade school. And I started abusing alcohol at a very young age, and I got sober at 32. I was living under a bridge, so to speak. I was actually living in my car, and I couldn't go within 100 yards of my own home, and I had burned every bridge that I could burn, and realized that I had to make a choice. So my decision when it's either do this or die, was really more about drugs and alcohol. Like, I need to stop doing this. And after about a year of being sober and all of the work that takes, clearing out the mess on the inside that kept me drunk and high, also allowed me to see that what was going on with my body was part of that same disease. And I didn't feel like what I saw in the mirror was an outward expression of the work I had done on the inside.
And that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
And you're also bringing up a point that a lot of people miss, how I think a lot of people compartmentalize like the physical and the spiritual and the mental, and they don't realize that it's really a holistic approach to health and to your longevity and your life goals, and that it's all linked, right? You know, it's very hard to have a healthy body when your mind is not in a healthy place, or
Absolutely.
vice versa, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that's why, that's kind of like the ethos of my channel and my content. And the My Corner project is about me, always being the project, right? I'm working every day on me. I wake up in the morning and doing something for my health, something for my spirituality, and something for my knowledge and self-development every day. And so my ethos is to encourage everybody that I encounter to think of themselves as a project. You have work to do on yourself every day.
yeah. And it's
And
an
guide
ongoing
people in the
project. That's the
process.
other thing, because we always think of projects like beginning, middle, end. It's
Yeah.
human
It
nature.
never ends.
And that's the thing. Like, once you reach an end, that's just the start of something else, right?
Yeah.
Because if you stop evolving, what? We die, I guess.
Right. Well, and that's the beautiful thing about life, right? And it's funny, I of all places, in an Anne Rice book, got a glimpse into, we're always talking about what is the purpose of life, right? Like,
Right.
everybody wants to know, like, why we're here. And she says it so eloquently in a book called The Servant of the Bones. And it's actually about almost a page long description of what it is. But to summarize, it's to love and to learn. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's like, how much did you give? How much love did you give to the people around you? And how much of this world were you able to absorb and intellectualize and process spiritually and emotionally and every other way? And I think the minute you stop doing that, and my wife and I say this all the time, because we're at a point in our life, and you understand because you're the same age, where you used to see a lot of your friends like giving up, like they're retiring.
Yeah.
They sit in front of television all day, or they said, they don't really have anything to do anymore, so they don't do anything. And a lot of them
Yeah.
start drinking a lot and everything else. And it's just like, if you're not growing, you're dying. And
Yeah.
I'm not ready to die yet, man. I'm a long ways away. So,
Yeah, I'm a big believer. Like, if you have some kind of overarching goal or north star to navigate to, if you don't actively choose one, and that could be anything. That could be, for some folks it's religion, being a person of service. I don't know, work on your career, perhaps. That's one version of it. But if you don't, like, I feel like life chooses for you, and then it might not be what you want, and you meander, and then you
yeah,
meander. You
it's a
just
great
kind of
way to
like,
put it.
yeah. And I like how you that thought. I went to a high school reunion last year, and it was the first time that I'd seen a lot of these folks since my transformation, similar to your scenario. And you hit something just now, really, that it reminded me of that, where, like, I saw maybe half of the folks there. It felt like they'd given up, like they were like just going through the motions of life until they die, if that makes any sense. Like, like nothing's wrong per se. It's not like there's anything negative actively happening in their lives, but it felt like they're just cycling through every day. Like, you'd ask them, but like, so how do you feel? It's like, well, I've got this, that, and the other thing. So are you doing anything about it? They're like, no.
Yeah.
It's like,
My answer is always fantastic.
yeah, that's a great answer.
Yeah, how you feeling? Fantastic.
It's like,
just,
I'm glad to hear it.
Believe it and say it, and it'll be, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about okay, so you make the transformation throughout these years and you find yourself, like you said, intrigued or interested in bodybuilding.
Yeah.
So what was it about bodybuilding specifically that attracted your attention? Was it the discipline? Was it what specifically? You mentioned that it would be a better reflection of where you ended up mentally and spiritually, right? You're stronger. So.
Yeah. The fat me was not a good physical representation of what was inside, and so after it took me 14 months to lose weight, and I didn't know anything, and
right.
I just there was guys in my gym who were telling me, hey, you should get your testosterone checked. I'm like, no, I'm a recovering addict. I'm not going to start jamming myself with needles. And I
hadn't even thought of that.
Like,
that's a good point.
I knew nothing about food, right? Here's what I knew about diet and exercise: move more, eat less. The same thing they always tell us, right? And so that's what I did. I went from having a bowl of ice cream this big. I'll hold my hands up so you can see.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
To actually, if you look at the information data on the back of and started reading labels, right? It was something I did early on.
Right.
But if you read the serving size is actually half a cup, which is one ice cream scoop. Like
right.
Not mounded, but like
flat. A normal round scoop.
So I started doing things like that. Like I'd just have the little half of scoop of ice cream at night instead of the bowl of ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
And I would, order the same, burrito that I would order at lunch every day, and I'd cut it in half and I'd throw the other half away, because if I kept the other half, I would just eat it later in the afternoon anyway, right?
Sure.
And it was just little things like that, just trying to cut it, like I've heard people say cut it in half, and I just started cutting everything I was eating down, and I never felt hungry. I wasn't like starving myself or whatever. And then I went into the mortgage business around the same time, and I was finding myself like I'm an early riser, so I'd get up and I'd push my files and do my follow-ups and things like that, and I'd be done by 11 o'clock in the morning with my work day, and I would go to the gym. And I started on this elliptical trainer, and the elliptical trainer, the first time I did it, the 10 minutes damn near killed me. I
can imagine.
Die, yeah.
You're completely deconditioned.
Yeah.
Here we go.
14 months later, I'm doing 2 hours on that thing like it was nothing,
Nice.
And everybody was telling me like, hey, you really need to do more weight training. Muscle's more metabolically active than fat, and the more muscle you gain, the easier it is to get lean. And I'm like, okay, sounds like a reasonable suggestion. So I started lifting weights, and then so once I had lost the weight, I had all this extra skin, and I just said, well, look, I need to build muscle, else I'm going to walk around looking like a skin bag. And so I started lifting weights, but I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was just moving weight through the air, or like the other jackasses in the gym, trying to put as much weight on the bar and grunt as loud as everybody else, louder than everybody else. So it looks like you're
with no real science behind it, or a program or progression or an understanding of it's your joints might not like it if you just throw
Well, so I went on like this for a decade.
Oh wow, okay,
just pushing big weight and moving things around and injuring my back and injuring myself, and not really knowing a lot about nutrition. And it wasn't until I was 46, so what was that, 8 years ago, that I started learning about nutrition and how to properly train. And when I was going to bodybuild competitively, that's when I started learning everything. And then, fast forward to now, it's like, to me, I want to, and it's just that just like we were just talking about, right? The concept of selfless service, right? It's really a spiritual principle. And to be able to help somebody else is definitely part of that spiritual process. You look at successful people, and Grant Cardone talks about this all the time. I can list 20 motivational speakers right now. Ed Milet's a huge one. I love Ed Milet, but they get to a certain point in their life, and it's like, look, giving back and teaching other people what I've learned to do is one of the most important things that I can do with my life.
Yeah.
And I feel like that spiritual principle of selfless service is important. So, and that's like, I didn't get into creating content and coaching and stuff because I thought that the money would be so good that I could replace the income I have from my other successful businesses.
Uh,
I did it because I wanted to show other people the way that I had learned over
yeah.
how many. You don't have to make the same mistakes that I made
Yeah.
or
You
take
don't
the
need to
hard
wait
road.
at the
Yeah,
whole decade.
exactly. Let me get you dialed in where you can have a physique like mine in 2 years instead of 12, and
Yeah.
it with diet, exercise, biohacking, proper use of HRT and things like that, and
Yeah.
that's where the motivation really comes from.
Yeah, and by the way, when we release this episode, we're going to have all of Mike's information in the comments so that you can reach out to him if you're interested in following the Mike Horner project or hiring him as a coach or requesting any of his services. So
So
just so the audience knows, like we'll do that. Okay, so let's fast forward to now you've started to look seriously into competitive bodybuilding. So how does that start? Like, did you say, hell, I'm going to pick a show and I'm going to aim for it and here we go? Or how did that evolve? And let me ask you, because I actually don't know, how many times have you competed? How many shows have you done so far?
So I did 3 shows between 2017 and 2019,
Okay.
and I decided to take a break to really put on size, and
Hmm.
try to, like, get into bodybuilder condition,
Okay.
because I was competing in classic physique, and I
So
just
did you
never was.
start in classic? Like, oh,
Yeah, I
you went
started in
straight to
classic.
classic?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I don't have I don't have a naturally narrow waist,
Hmm.
and I don't really have super wide lats, and
Gotcha.
there's a reason for that I recently learned,
Uh,
and so I wasn't really competitive in that class, and I just really felt like I needed to add some size.
okay.
And in 2019, I decided to take a break,
Hmm.
and spend a year putting some size on, but
Yeah.
then we had a pandemic. So,
Right.
and the
Right.
pandemic triggered a bit of a financial crisis for myself and my businesses. And so I
Right.
was really focused on that for about 3 years. And then I started working with Paul it was either late 22 or early 23
Okay.
to get back in shape. And I had a coach,
Right.
and he was a great coach, and he was just a local guy with 5 or 6 of us that he called the Northwest Bodybuilding Team or whatever.
Nice
And we went
crew.
and did,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
we did shows together,
Yeah.
and he's a great man, and a half decent coach, right?
Right. Right.
And I know he doesn't listen to podcasts, so I don't have to worry about him hearing me
It's
say
okay.
that about him.
And if he does, you are speaking kindly to him. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
it's things are what they are. You know, and
yeah. Well, until you've worked with a great coach, you don't really know,
yeah,
and Paul's a great coach. He's a fantastic coach. And
yeah.
I'm not just saying that because I overuse the word fantastic. I mean,
Hmm.
and he's become a friend and a mentor in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
But as far
Yeah.
as like
That.
coaching, he's brought me in the best condition of it ever. So
Yeah, and that has been my experience with Paul too. Like he just oozes mentorship. Like he'll casually toss these lines that make you go like, I gotta put that into my philosophy, man. Like,
awesome.
like just casually tosses wisdom left and right, and like you, his ability to share and use these platforms to like teach and share is, you know, I'm sorry, but I will never ever complain about anybody who uses a platform like this just to share information and help other people get better. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't beat that.
Well, when Paul and I make content together, a lot of times it's the banter, just going back and forth about life, about our philosophy towards life, about business and our philosophy towards business, and sharing, and just our mindset, where our mindsets line up. And people love those conversations. Like
Sure,
they
sure.
always get really good views, and so I think, it's one thing to talk about the science all the time, but I think people are also very curious about the people practicing the science and the
Mhm.
mindset and of those people and how that works.
Yeah. Or even one thing that I'm starting to learn from you guys and pay attention to is the performance on stage. And what does that mean? So we prep these packages of ourselves to present our best physique. And that is seems mostly very, like you said, scientific regimented. You eat this way with these calories, with these macros.
Yeah.
You do this exercise, you monitor whether you're, you know, recovering well, your sleep, your supplementation, whatever that may be. You know, if you're enhanced, you do that thing. If you're, you know, if you're a natural, you do certain other things, et cetera, et cetera.
I
And
don't know
then,
anything about those guys.
but you know, you go through your process to
Yeah.
prep. But one thing that I'm learning that is the art form of this, and this is for anyone who, like me, is new to bodybuilding as the sport piece, not the building the physicality part. You see what the results are, you see your health markers, that's easy. But the art of that performance, of being an entertainer, of bringing that on stage, how does that play into, in your case, your presentation? Because recently you had a competition. Now, I don't recall how did you place? How did it go? What was that performance like? Can you share with the audience, like,
Yeah.
what's, you know, put us, if you've never been on stage at a bodybuilding show, what's that experience like? You know, from
So, you know, we call that the pageantry, right? Like at the end of the day, it's a beauty pageant, right? And so the
yeah,
pageantry
it's a
is
testosterone laden beauty pageant.
it is. And you know, and that is as much of an art as anything else, right? Like you can build the best physique in the world if you don't know how to present it, you know, you're
Right.
in trouble. So, and if you as a first time competitor, you know, I would recommend that you are posing even twice a day, at least
Mm-hmm.
20 minutes per session, and that you have a posing coach. Because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and Paul says this all the time too, like the guy, especially at a local show, the guy who wins the local show is the guy who comes in shredded and knows how to pose, because
Yeah.
most people won't do those two things.
Yeah.
They're either coming in emaciated because they've been over dieted,
Mm-hmm.
or they're coming in fat because they didn't have a coach or couldn't adhere to a diet. And then some of those guys win too, just because they have crazy muscular development and incredible genes,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they're
Or
still
like you
fat.
said, they know how to pose.
Yeah, I've been beaten by a fat guy before. I was like,
Which is
it's
ironic in our case, right? It's like, come
yeah.
on, I was there.
Well, once you get to 50 and over, you know, at the
Uh,
local shows, they don't divide you into classes, weight
uh,
classes. So at the Emerald Cup, for example, I was standing next to a super heavyweight who wasn't in shape or
oh,
conditioned, but he was huge and made
right.
me look like a dwarf,
Sure.
and he beat me. So, you know, that's the sport, right? It's whoever shows up on that day.
Yeah,
But the
yeah.
biggest mistake I see most new competitors make is not putting an emphasis on posing. And it's hard to find a good posing coach. Usually
Yeah.
someone, if you're going to the gym and if you're competing in the NPC, a lot of times the NPC will have these posing clinics. And if you can kind of, you know, sometimes you can latch on to the guy who's teaching the clinic and say, hey, can you give me some one-on-one sessions? With the first bodybuilding team I was on, we posed every Sunday as a group, and I
Mhm.
think that gave me a real good foundation. And there were some fundamentals that they taught me that were not quite right, and then I
Uh,
learned some of that from some of the fundamentals from Daniel Coffeen.
mhm.
And Dan Coffeen's if this is your first show, he's a good coach because he's really good at teaching the basics and the fundamentals.
Gotcha.
But his coaching ability stops there. And then when you get past that, as you know, slightly more advanced bodybuilder, you're going to need more personalized coaching if you want to be competitive. You know, it's hard to get in with the good guys, like, you know, the Joey One Belt on Instagram. He works out of the Dragon's Lair in Vegas, and he is phenomenal. Like, he's one of the guys that helped uh, dial in Nick Walker,
Okay. So,
who's become a fantastic poser, right? And he
yeah,
wasn't
like a
always.
world class, you know, top 3 in the world, top 5 in the world. This is the guy
Well,
if you
and
want
it's
to
one
learn.
of the reasons why I train in Vegas. So I used to get around those guys, and you know,
Ah,
Aaron Burke actually ended up helping me out a lot with really personalizing my posing.
yeah.
And as we were talking about the other day on Paul's
Hmm.
show, we were talking about posing and why it's gotten so much better in the last 5-6 years, like exponentially better in the last 5 or 6 years. And we suppose, you know, I suppose that it was allowing the contestants to become more personalized in their approach, because it used to be the judges expected you to stand a certain way.
Right. That he was
And
very prescriptive.
yeah,
Or prescriptive? Is that how you say it in English? Prescriptive. Anyway,
yeah,
like,
yeah. Your feet go here, legs
yeah,
together. You know, they had this certain way that they wanted you to
yeah,
pose.
hands here, you know, yeah,
Yeah. And that might not be the best way to display your lats, for example, on a lat spread.
right,
But
right.
That's the way the coaches wanted to see it. So it was sort of limiting. Roman, who's been competing for a long time, has done a lot of competitions. He was like, I think that's it. It's the personalization, like the light bulb came on for him when we were having this discussion. And so I think our ability to, not everybody's expected to do that front double bicep the same way.
Mhm.
Some guys put one foot forward, some guys just hold the legs, side by side. I feel like mine looks a little better with my left foot forward. I'm able to get a better spread, on my lats when I don't twist as far back on my arms to make my biceps show.
Mhm.
So a lot of times I'll do that and then I'll twist back a little more. And so they get it. My lats look better in one shot and then my biceps look better in another shot. And it's just like figuring out those little things for yourself and how to present your physique, which is not like
Right.
anybody else's physique, is really key. And then the pageantry is just fun. Like once you get there, look, you've done all the work, right? You should be in shape a couple weeks out. The rest is your coach just feeding you into the show and making sure that you have the right amount, the exact right amount of water, sodium, and carbohydrates
Yeah.
on board when you step on stage to give that the look that is the fullest, the tightest, and the leanest, and the driest.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing the last couple of weeks. If you've done that work already, you already know. It's like the rest of this is fun.
Okay.
And it's easier said than done because I did this to myself at Masters Nationals. I was like really stressed because I had never had a problem holding water, and I had been holding water like most of the time I was in Vegas. I had that infection I was fighting, and then some other mishaps in the shoulder that came up during that prep.
Uh-huh.
And because I had some problems like this last few days, I'm like, maybe the water's not going to come off. And it's funny because you get stressed about what it's going to be. Well,
Sure.
stress
Sure.
produces cortisol.
Uh-huh.
Cortisol causes you to hold water. So
Yeah.
it's like
So you're like
this
ballooning.
cycle.
And your coach is asking, "Did you take some Debo when I wasn't looking?" It's like, no, no, sir.
Ironically enough, I mean, I know this in my head. Like, I know that this is a thing. You
Right.
have to manage your cortisol or you will
Right.
hold water. And I'm like, I can't stop stressing
Well,
out
it's
about this
it's
thing.
it's the whole joke, right? Of like, you seem stressed. You should calm down. I am calm.
Yeah,
It's like that's not gonna really help.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I had Paul said, look, dude, just relax and just have fun. And I came
Yeah.
down from the Airbnb where I was staying to the show and just hung out and looked at some of the other competitors and stuff. And then realizing that like these guys are all just like me, man. They're 50 something years old. They work their ass off on their physique. Some of them are better than others, but I
Mhm.
belong here. Like this is
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm okay here. And the stress kind of went away. And I woke up the next morning and I was 203 because we had not been putting in carbs for fear of spilling
Right.
over. And I hadn't
Uh-huh.
been 203 on stage since like my second show. Shredded, yeah. Because I walk around 230 in the off season, so that's without even really trying. So I was peeled, and
Yeah.
I was pleased with the look. I mean, always you want to be fuller than you are, but
Mhm.
it's always a compromise at the end of the day. So there's 68, 50 plus competitors at that show. It's a
Mhm.
big show, and I
Yeah.
placed right in the middle of the pack. So it's like I'm an average Joe on a national stage. I know what it takes now to be competitive,
Mhm.
and we'll see what we can do to get there.
So let me ask you, as a masters competitor, if you had to give, this is like such a typical question, but I have to ask it. It's like, if you had to give somebody who's starting, like who's considering this and they're our age and they're just now starting, what would be your advice, if any, if you had like a quick little inspirational quote that you would throw their way?
I would say make sure your house is in order. Make sure that your finances and your professional life are in a place where you can not stress. For the last 3 or 4 weeks of prep, you really need to be focused on prep. It's almost like you should be able to take a vacation from work.
Hmm.
Make sure that you and your wife are okay because you're going to put some stress on your relationship in that last 4 weeks,
Okay.
and that your family and your life are in order before you make this your endeavor. Because if you've got all these other things pulling on you, you're not going to be able to be your best. And I know I couldn't do what I do without the love and support of my wife, and she
100%.
she
Yeah. It makes having that
it's
team
not
at
easy.
home. Yeah. Yeah. Having that team at home, definitely. Like, and one thing, and I just want to like kind of like dig in here just a tiny bit for, again, for context, where people don't understand. So when we say those last 4 weeks of contest prep, a lot of people who are not familiar with bodybuilding don't know that that's where calories are very restricted, right? Because we're dialing in that look for that one peak day, really, for contest day. And for those people who may not know this, when you're in a caloric deficit like that, plus the stress you're training, you're still training, you're still doing your thing. You're still probably, unless you're independently wealthy, you're still working and doing your business. So you have that, plus family life. All of these things are working together. And I don't think the average person understands the stress level why you're very specifically mentioning those last 3 or 4 weeks. Because, I mean, when you're in a caloric deficit like that, your hormonal balance changes, even as a man.
Yeah.
And that will change how you react, how you perceive things. You know, it might be more short-tempered, all
Yeah.
the,
Yeah. You
you
start
know,
acting like a bitch.
yeah, yeah, or like a total
Put it simply.
jackass.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Or a jackass. You can swing from bitch to jackass at any moment. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and
yeah,
and what's happening, like physiologically, like your body needs so much fat to
hmm
function properly, right?
right,
Your your brain runs on cholesterol. Like and other fats. At the cellular level, fats are very much necessary. Your liver needs so much fat to function properly. And when you start depriving your body of exogenous fat completely, right? You're not eating any fats at all. I mean, I eat very few, like I think Paul mostly has me at about 40 grams of EFAs,
mm,
essential fatty acids, every day. Essential fatty
okay,
acids are not cheeseburgers and dairy, and those are saturated fats. Essential
yeah,
fatty acids are very clean fats, and nothing else. So you get really lean at the end, right? Like
hmm
4 weeks out, you should be as lean as you're going to be on stage, and I'm a high 5% body fat when I'm at
right.
4 weeks out. So I don't have any endogenous fat in which my body can use to function properly.
Yeah, to power those systems or so
Exactly.
on.
So
Yeah,
you get what we call prep brain. You don't
prep
think
brain.
clearly, you don't communicate as well. You might throw your car keys in the garbage, things like that.
Oh man,
All things that I've done. And then you add to that the caloric restriction, which can actually do worse things to your mood than the PEDs,
right.
honestly. And you have the combination of the two, the PEDs and the
Right.
caloric restriction. And you get better the longer you do it. You're able to recognize these feelings and so goes life, right? Mastering the millisecond between stimulation and reaction, and that's the one thing that we have
Yeah,
absolute control over, and not acting out on every feeling or emotion or thought that you have.
for sure. A little self-control goes a long way. So
Yeah.
and having this is where having that self-realization, self-awareness becomes like super critical
Yeah.
just to survive, for sure.
Well, and I'm
So,
blessed. My business manager, he's also a friend of mine and used to be a part of that first bodybuilding team that I
okay.
was on.
So
So
he
he understands
understands.
the process.
He has
My wife
context.
has been through it enough times to
Mhm.
understand the process. She's also a very patient and supportive person. So, I'm lucky in my life to have the people behind me that make it easy. And if you're not, solo bolo and
Mhm.
intention and independently wealthy, you have to take all those things into consideration before you commit to doing the show. So,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
So let's talk about what happens after the show. This is something that I hadn't even really given it a lot of thought until a conversation with Amy Killian. And
yeah,
she was talking about how a good coach will help you not just to the show, but actually past the show. Because there can be some very deleterious health effects if you don't watch it. You can't just, I'm done with the show. I'm going to eat like 2 cheeseburgers because I haven't had anything like, for weeks. There's definitely like I guess like anything, just like you kind of ease into the contest prep and contest day, you also have to kind of ease out,
yeah.
and not just go nuts and I'm sure you've heard horror stories of people gaining like 30 pounds in a week or craziness like that.
Yeah. Well, right now I'm in the process of becoming skinny fat because I'm not consuming nearly enough calories. I'm on a health phase, so I'm doing just a minimal replacement amount of testosterone, and
Yeah.
and and I'm not. not eating. I am eating, but what I'm eating is not anything that's helping me maintain muscle
So are you being
structure.
careful to just ease into first of all, you're on vacation, so you have to
Yeah,
enjoy
different story.
life, you know.
Typical guy post show, right? If you're a man, a bodybuilder, you have a great opportunity after your
Hmm.
show to do what we call a rebound phase.
Okay.
And if you immediately go back to eating clean and then pushing the food up, like Paul likes to push the food up on me, right
Hmm.
after the show, he'll have me do 3 high carb days back to back.
Oh wow. Okay.
He wants to see at what point I spill over, because then
Hmm.
he can spend that 6 weeks just really pushing the food into you. Because,
Yeah.
like he says, grilling always wins. You're going to be hungry. And if I'm not filling you full of good food, you're going to go stuff a pizza or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, there, and in that, as far as gaining tissue, that rebound phase was actually more beneficial to me than my bulking phase was
Hmm.
last year in 2024. So, I was able to put on a few pounds of lean tissue that never came back off,
Hmm.
and so there's some magic to be had there as far as taking advantage of the metabolic state that you're in coming off of a contest prep, right? You're
And
super insulin sensitive. Your body's going to take everything that you give it carbohydrate wise and stuff it
mhm.
right into the muscle. So
And to be clear, you're training. You're also physically training too, right?
yeah,
Like after the show, doesn't mean you stop training for a week or
I
anything
don't.
like that, right?
That's
You just we continue what we do,
I
like
can't take
we.
a week off to save my life. I told my wife,
Yeah,
when we went to the European vacations, like, there's not going to be a lot of gyms everywhere. I'm not going to be worried about it. I'll just work out when I can, when there's a good
yeah,
hotel gym or something. And
yeah,
it's just,
yeah.
I can't not train, man. I'm such an animal. I just can't even,
It's
you
so
know.
funny. My wife and I do this too now. Now that we're both on the fitness journey, like absolutely, like the first thing, it's so sad. We check into a hotel and like, do they have anything beyond 50-pound dumbbells? Let's see.
We
Let's
did the
see.
same thing here today.
Right?
Let's go look at the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all they had was 50-pound dumbbells, but
Always.
it's nice.
Unless you go out, and then get a day pass somewhere.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the largest bodybuilding gym in Europe is actually in Lisbon, Portugal. And
Okay.
I didn't know this, right?
Uh-huh.
Because I'm a gym hunter. Like, I'll go find
Yeah,
the cool
yeah, yeah,
gyms,
yeah.
right?
I mean, we have an
I love
interest
it.
in this, so yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love talking about equipment and trying different equipment, things like that. I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to that stuff, and it's a good thing because I probably wouldn't have gotten as much time with my family had I not found out about this gym till
Uh-huh.
later in my stay in Lisbon. And it was actually one of the guys who's been following along with contest prep and everything. His
Mhm.
username is Cream of Wooks. I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's like, "Oh, I'm going to be in Portugal in a couple of weeks. You got to train at Mr. Biggs." And so, you know,
Okay.
I guess
So
I
you
got,
went there and it's like,
oh yeah, it's epic. Yeah. It's like 4 tiered floors of just every equipment. And they had Panada there before people in the US even knew what Panada was. So they had like some vintage Panada pieces in there that I've never seen
wow.
anywhere. It was cool, man. It was great. I,
Yeah,
I actually
yeah.
made a video. I made a YouTube video. I'm going to edit it later and get it up. So
It's gonna be so interesting. Like, eventually, if this is the kind of thing, like I imagine, like, somebody like the super successful bodybuilder or people in this space, like Vigor Steve and all that,
yeah.
to be able to travel throughout the world to check out all these gyms must be like insane. Like, let me go to Dubai and see how they train over there. Let me go to Madrid and see what that's like.
Life goals,
That's
my
gonna be
friend.
awesome.
Life
Yeah,
goals.
yeah.
I'm living that dream right now.
I,
Been all over the U.S. and trained at some of the best gyms in the U.S. I had the
mhm.
luxury of actually, living in my RV in Las Vegas for 8 weeks to train for this last competition. So
Oh wow,
I was training
wow.
with top level IFBB pros, several Olympians. I was training with every day at the Dragon's Lair and at Cult
Mhm.
Fitness, which is another big bodybuilding gym. They're opening some new gyms there now. New Gear people are opening. They started their own kind of brand of gyms now. That the first
Mhm.
one is the flagship is opening in Las Vegas here pretty soon. So it was a great place to just be submersed in the bodybuilding culture, but also, I had the opportunity to make some pretty great content with some people and actually further develop, friendships with, like Jared Feather Aaron
Yeah.
Burke, and guys who I've known because I've met them at different events, but never really known. And yet
Right.
now, you hang out with them in the gym, you're bullshitting, and you
Yeah,
get to
yeah,
know them at a whole
it's
new
a
level,
different
right?
bond that you
Yeah,
can build, and shared experience, man, that you can like
yeah,
work out and see, like these people whose content you're so familiar with, and then see them in real life and get that hands-on, like, so this is what you mean, because it's you're there. So yeah, that's gotta be that.
it is.
I'm actually planning on going to the Arnold this year for the first
Oh,
time.
cool. Yeah, we'll see
So
you there.
yeah, so I'm looking forward to kind of taking that dive of meeting you guys, and seeing and learning more about the cultural side, not so much the practice,
Yeah,
because the practice we can in this world of technology, we can like coach each other online, communicate like we're doing right now, but it's a whole other animal when it's like, in person, in real life, like, well,
yeah,
here are the weights. How are you moving these, by the way? That's it's
yeah,
interesting to see like the people doing what they've shown you in real life, and experiencing that. So
yeah.
um
Yeah, well, a lot of these guys, I mean, they make. I know that workout videos are like the least viewed thing on YouTube, which blows
right.
my mind. Everybody wants to know about the drugs, and even
Yeah.
more important than the training is the nutrition. Like the training, the last thing they want to is the one that they want to really learn about. But
Mhm.
I've learned so much about training on, I mean, I got my NASM certification. I
Mhm.
learned so much more on training watching YouTube videos than
Yeah,
I could ever
yeah,
learn
it's
from any coursework. Yeah, it's fantastic.
it's super interesting. Like I've lately gotten into that whole dive, and these different approaches that people have and how they do it. Like, people like Ryan, is it Humiston? People like, oh my God, I always get his name wrong. Is it Jordan Peters, the super huge British
Yeah,
dude?
yeah.
I love his shit. That dude is like my spirit animal, because he does the whole like to failure, like very low volume, but very high intensity, which by the way seems to be saving my joints. I started working out in that style, and it's actually helped my joints like immensely, which I never thought it would.
Huh.
Go figure, you know?
Yeah, I've always been once I was done hurting myself throwing weight around that I couldn't control, I've always been a volume guy. So I train mostly in the 10 to 15 rep range
Mhm.
with just about everything. And I leave a couple reps in reserve
Yeah.
for the most part. I mean, you have to go to all out failure every once in a while just so that you
Mhm.
know what failure feels like. Because you can't say
Yeah.
I've got 2 reps in reserve unless you know what it feels like to fail. And
Yeah.
so, I'll go to failure every once in a while on a set, usually like towards the end of my workout.
Mhm.
There's guys go in there and try to go to failure on every set, and that's the systemic fatigue that comes along with that could
Yeah.
be if you're trying to build a physique for the stage over time, that systemic fatigue that goes along with that kind of training may not be the
Yeah.
best thing.
Yeah. You
Some
have to find
guys
that
just
sweet
don't
spot
know any
for
better.
sure.
They just
For sure.
they want to train like that no matter what. It doesn't matter. That's just how
Yeah.
they go hard. Me, I'm like the iron yogi, right? I'm in there trying to like, get in
Yeah.
my, align my chakras and
No, I
get
gotcha. I
my
gotcha.
muscles
And
engaged with my mind.
you just made a really important point, which is something that I think this year finally clicked for me. Like a lot of what I built before was, I always thought, like, and you just hit the nail on the head. I've got 2 reps in reserve, so I'm good. And
Yeah,
then when I started going in this, where it's only one single working set to failure, rather than say 3 or 4 sets.
yeah,
So I would always think like, oh, I've only got, surely this is what 2 feels like. And then you keep going. And then you're like, wait a minute, that's not, I've got 5 more, 6 more, 7 more with good control and good form. And then you realize this whole freaking time
yeah,
I've been under training forever, because I've always thought like I'm at 90% and I've been at 75
yeah,
forever.
yeah. The only time I'm confident that I gave everything to a workout is when I have to accomplish, uh, or descend some stairs while
Yeah.
leaving the gym after a leg day. I know that,
Yeah.
oh my
Yeah.
God, I could not have done another set, right?
Oh, see, I'm totally like leg dominant. Like my legs
Yeah.
grow if I just look at them. So
Well, come
I've
look at mine,
never.
would you?
Yeah, but the good Lord giveth and the good Lord taketh away. So he
Yeah,
didn't give me arms.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
It's always a balance game for sure. And one thing while we're on this topic is the, again, just to share with the audience, once you do hit your 40s, 50s, 60s now with masters, I mean, there are masters that look amazing at fucking 60 now, which is
Yeah.
incredible. Like,
The guy
we
who won
need
his pro
to,
card in the 16 over category, he's one of Paul, another guy that Paul coaches, and he won it. He's 60 and he won his pro card in the 60 plus. And he's been competing at that show for 5 years, and
right.
that's what it took to get
And
in
he
there.
got his card.
Man, and he looks amazing. Went right on to do a pro show a couple weeks later and actually placed, I think, second, third or something. He did pretty well.
Jeez.
So,
Jeez.
yeah.
Well, what I was gonna say is, like, if you could share some mindset tips, just quick tips for us more mature, older competitors, things to keep in mind, you know, like you said, control the weights, like your rep ranges. What is your general advice for somebody like that, just to keep in mind?
You mean specific to training?
Yeah, specifically for training when you're older, like things that a lot of people don't have guidance, and they'll start, like you said, flinging weight around, and then their joints are crap, and then they leave the gym, and you know, we don't want that.
Well, the number one piece of advice I would give is to be teachable, right?
Okay.
I don't, you know, you get to a certain age, you know, guys our age, it's like we've experienced a lot of life, and we're generally pretty confident in what we think we know, you know. And I was sharing you earlier why I've never had wide lats, and I literally just learned this in the last year, how to contract my lats, right? And I've been told forever, you know, pull into your hip, you know, and so I'm pulling into my hip. I've heard people say to me that, you know, when you're doing some sort of pull exercise, you want to be like smashing your lats into your spine. You want to feel like, well, if I'm doing that, my elbows are back here, right?
Yeah.
I'm beyond the range of motion in which I'm going to engage my my lats. And so I think it was either Jared or Eric Janicki who described it to me in a way where, you know, yeah, you're pulling into your hips, but you're pulling into your hips to get that lat contraction. And if you're not fully connected from the stretch position to that contraction, if you're not feeling that contraction in the bottom part of your lat, you're not contracting your lats, right? I've moved tons of weight around the wrong way for years. It's like I do the same 120-pound dumbbell lateral or lat pulls as everybody else. Why aren't my lats as big as that guy? Well, you know, you have to know how to contract them. And so now I move a lot less weight with a lot more volume, and I pause in that stretch position, and then I get that contraction. I pause there, and I'm always very slow on the negative, back up, and training like that is so much more effective. I get to the point where those last couple reps just hurt. I've never had pain in my lats like that before. So be a student of the craft. Don't think that you know everything. There's some 20-year-old kid who's going to show up and give you a little morsel of knowledge that might be a complete game changer for you. But if you're not open-minded to hear it, you're going to miss it.
Yeah. And the other thing is, along these lines, the value of, if you're, you know, good coaching is gold. You know, it's the investment. It's like, yes, it's more expensive. Yes, you can learn how to do this yourself, for sure. You could self-teach, you can learn. But the time and money you invest with a good coach will pay off. It's a force multiplier. It's just a force multiplier. It's going to be like 10 times more effective over time than you trying to figure it all and reinvent the wheel, you know? So.
Well, I'm a huge advocate of coaching in just in every part of life. Like if I want to learn something new or become good at something, you know, the best thing to do is just to hire somebody. But my philosophy on that, you know, and this goes for bodybuilding as well, right? I mean, you know, don't coach yourself. Even if you can figure your body out and somehow have the mind control to not bullshit yourself, which I've never met a person.
That's rare.
Yeah, it's super rare. And even if you're good at it, you're still bullshitting yourself a little bit. But so I always say that, you know, if you're coaching yourself, your coach is an idiot. You know, just spend the money and get the coach. And my other philosophy on coaching is like spend more money than you're comfortable with. Like you're like, look, I could afford maybe $150 for a coach, but the coach you like is $300. Pay the $300 a month.
Yeah.
And
figure it out.
even if it's more than you're comfortable with financially, and it's a huge investment for you, and if you're sacrificing other things to do
Mhm.
that, like, okay, I have to make my coffee at home while I'm being coached, so I don't
Okay.
spend this money on coffee. I can spend more money, because if you make that sort of investment into
Mhm.
a coach where it's costing you that much, and
Mhm.
I do not mean monetarily, I mean like giving up lattes and
Yeah,
shit
yeah,
like
no,
that,
like there's
you're
not
gonna
just
listen to
monetary costs, but there's time, there's all other costs. Yeah, yeah.
you're gonna listen to what they have to say.
Oh, if it
It,
stings, yeah,
yeah.
that's true. That's true. The advice that sticks is the one that stings, you know? So,
The Planet Fitness coach, right? Like, how many guys join Planet Fitness for $20 a month and never go?
yeah,
It comes out of their account every month, and
they don't
they
care.
just don't care. They're
Yeah,
not paying attention, and but they never use the gym, and they built a whole business model on that. Well, believe me
yeah,
when I tell you there are coaches who have done that too. And
sure.
so if you're going to buy a coach that's a bargain coach who has some sort of technology and makes it easy on you, well, you're not likely to use it because it's such a
Yeah.
small investment for you. You'll forget that you're even making it. Where if you make an investment in what you're doing that is difficult for you to achieve, then you're
Mhm.
going to listen and you're going to do what you're told.
So it's about being invested. It's about being invested, having skin in the game. Is
Yeah.
what it sounds like. That's definitely like the advice. All right. So as we wrap up this, what's next for the Mike Horner project? Are you already thinking of the next contest, or are you thinking of like taking a break? Like, where are you
Yeah.
at now? Because I mean, your competition was, if I recall correctly, like 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. It's
I think
relatively recent.
5 weeks
5
now.
weeks. Yeah, not that
July
long ago.
17th. Yeah, July
Yeah.
17th. So,
Okay.
about 5 weeks. I'm on this vacation, and I committed to not being, beholden to a training schedule or to a
Right.
diet schedule while I'm here.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
taking this break. I'm also, it's important after a competition, you have your foot down on the gas with the PEDs and stuff. It's important
Yeah.
to clean out, right? To go through a cruise
Right.
phase or a health phase where, I'm taking all of the good supplements to make sure that I'm restoring the health of my liver, my kidneys, and
Hmm.
all the other things that can be stressed by PED use. Taking just a replacement dose of testosterone and nothing else really. And I say really because I'm still taking a couple of the weight loss peptides like retatrutide and SLUPP.
Yeah, but those, honestly, I believe those are like year round because of the anti-inflammatory effects. There's
I believe.
so much
Yeah.
benefit.
Yeah, no,
Like,
I believe the same thing.
yeah.
So after this cleanup, when I get home, I'm going to start my
Hmm.
season, my progress
Okay.
season, and I would love to be on stage again next year at the same show, July
Hmm.
16th. But I have to kind of play it by ear because I really need to bring about 10 or 15 pounds more to at least 10 pounds more to the stage if I want to be competitive within my weight class. And
10 pounds in a year is,
10
that's
pounds in
big.
a year is a lot, right? So I'm not committing to it for sure being this year. And I also may have a surgery too. So,
Oh,
I
okay.
have this loose skin still that hasn't gone away after
Mhm.
I've almost had surgery like a half a dozen times. And I talk myself out of it because there's this part of me that wants to say, I've never had surgery. I never did. There was no cheating. Like I
Yeah.
did everything the hard way. And as soon as you have surgery, they're like, oh, well, they just had liposuction and cut it all off. And, he didn't
But
do any of the hard
there's,
work.
beat yourself up too hard, because I've had this conversation with after my weight loss with like my doctor, and he's like, look, no matter how much muscle you put on and how much you're doing all the right things, but
Yeah.
there are some things that really you cannot, set back time.
Yeah. Well, and then, once you're competing at the level that I'm competing at now, it's like,
Yeah.
you're standing next to a guy who doesn't have the skin flap,
Yeah.
and that's why
Yeah.
he places better than you. It's like those are the things that really matter. So my motivations for
Yeah.
doing it are different, obviously.
Hmm.
And so if I have surgery, that's definitely going to be putting me on stage in 2026 instead of, or sorry, in 2027 instead of
Rather than
2026.
2026. No, it makes sense to
Yeah.
recover
And,
and all that.
I would like to pursue getting a pro card, and
Yeah.
at this point, I don't think that that's an impossible thing. It might take 3 years or 5 years. I don't know. At some point, if I feel like, look, I'm never going to grow the lats I need to grow to be competitive,
Uh,
I may just stop there. But ultimately,
Nah,
I want to
you'll
focus
get it.
on,
You'll get it. And the beauty of it is this. Again, we were talking about that North Star. There you go.
yeah,
That's a beautiful, like, very concrete goal that you can then use to align all your activities, around
yeah,
in a healthy, cool way, that'll help you grow, and I mean grow in all senses,
yeah,
spiritually, mentally, physically, not, all of it. So,
yeah, the project.
all right. So, yeah, you
Yeah.
have a project.
So I am really going to be focused on creating content. It's fun making the content
Yeah.
around bodybuilding. I think it's a very limited audience, and I really very much appreciate the audience that I have. And a lot of the people who are really sort of devotees to watching every video I put out and watching every Instagram post that I post are also people who are in body transformations or have gone
Mhm.
through body transformations, which is super cool to me that
Yeah.
those people are being inspired by my work and my progress, which is fantastic. And that's
Yeah.
really why I started my channel in January and what I want to do. So I think I make better, more useful content when I'm not talking about my own bodybuilding journey.
Yeah.
So, having some time off of contest prep so that I
Mhm.
can really make some more meaningful content. I've got a lot of ideas I'm fleshing out right now. I'm also getting ready to launch a new web page and app that
Okay.
will allow people to purchase like a prepackaged program, right? A
Mhm.
body transformation program where they have kind of the way that I've done everything laid out for them
Right.
in a more personal way. And then that will also give them access to a community which has access to me and the ability to ask questions and things like that. So, it's real cool because in the app, it'll be me showing you how to do the exercises, right? It's very
Nice.
personalized.
Okay.
And so we're going to be working on that this winter and getting that done and roll that out. And just trying to give people the roadmap to doing what it is we do. It's not that it's not great to self-teach and watch hours and hours of YouTube content because
Mhm.
that's definitely a technique that works, but giving people the option for some personalized guidance and doing it that way rather than I'll still do one-on-one coaching, but doing it
Right.
that way just makes it more accessible to more people.
Right.
So,
Well, it's one more tier or channel that people can pursue to become healthy, which is
yeah.
ultimately what we want. We want to. I don't know a single person that has gone through a successful transformation that doesn't become insufferable about trying to help other
Yeah.
people, right?
Yeah.
It's that's what I think body transformation people are like. We're like vegans and people who do CrossFit, and we just can't shut up about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's kind of how it is.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and then really, I'm definitely focused on men. It's not that I won't coach women, but
mhm.
I'm more focused on men, and there's a fundamental reason for that.
Is that your experience, right? I assume.
Well, that too, but
Mhm.
you know, to just to wax philosophical for a minute,
Uh-huh.
men aren't today what we were 30, 40 years ago.
100%.
And I think that I, I don't just want to create fit people or show people how to change their life. I want to improve the quality of men in the world,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it's better to be a warrior in a garden and a gardener in a war. And I think
Yes.
that being physically ready for whatever makes us stronger as a species,
Hmm.
and being having a very male, patriarchal, strong physical presence is a
Hmm.
big part of that.
It is. I've always been, I try to be fairly neutral when it comes to like a lot of the societal political connotation stuff like that. But there are some fundamentals
Yeah,
that unfortunately I don't see why people have fallen to the thought that having a strong male patriarchal archetypical, if you will, role
yeah,
can be construed as a negative thing, and it shouldn't be. Like, people have talents, sexes definitely have roles naturally,
yeah,
evolutionarily, that they're good at. So why not lean into that and make them better,
yeah. I think if we lean into our masculinity and own our masculinity, and I
Yeah.
think a good physique is a great manifestation of that. Not
Hmm.
only because obviously someone with a great physique is more imposing, right?
Hmm.
But someone with a great physique also um, is disciplined,
Hmm.
hardworking,
Yeah. Yeah.
and has self-control. It's better to be a dangerous person who treats
Yes.
people with love and kindness.
There's
Then
a difference between being what is it, a man that has the potential for great and terrible things than
yeah,
somebody that's just harmless. If you're harmless, what's the point? There's nothing to you.
yeah,
That's isn't that you're choosing to be peaceful, is that you have to because you're harmless.
absolutely.
Versus the control of, like, I have the potential for being a terrible person, but I choose to use this to protect to grow, to help.
Yes.
That's where the virtue comes in, right? That's the actual
without that,
virtue.
there isn't virtue. And obviously, you've read some philosophy. You've read Marcus Aurelius. I mean,
Yes.
it smacks of all the things he writes about. But yeah, I mean, that's we own our masculinity, and we own the fact that we can be dangerous if we need to. It makes our ability to give and love and nurture and all the things that we do for our families that much more power. Yeah.
That much more value.
Yeah.
For sure.
My dad loves me like nothing else in the world, but my dad will also fuck your dad up.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny. It's like the idea of like as a parent, as a dad, the way you love like your sons, for example, is far more conditional than how a mother loves their son. A mother loves their son unconditionally because she wants to nurture. That is the feminine approach. The dad wants a badass. So the dad will love you, but he will absolutely condition how much he loves you with how much of a badass you are.
Yeah. Well, and at the cellular level, right? Like at the level of our DNA, like we know we're going to need our son to protect us one day.
Yeah, when we're like old and gray and in that cave, if we make it that far, if that saber-toothed tiger didn't get us.
And just like Paul and I, when we get going on the philosophical stuff, we can go on for days and days.
Yeah,
it's a great conversation to have, and I think it's a conversation that men should be having, more often.
Yeah,
media and mainstream media, especially, but even some alternative media, we've been kind of cowed into not talking about masculinity, and I think not talking about masculinity, not talking about, not teaching boys how to control violent urges through things like combat sports is leading to school shootings and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, these things that need an outlet and a healthy one. And, it's not about suppression necessarily. It's about understanding and then shaping the behaviors around that. Now that we understand the fundamentals, this is why people behave the way they do. Well, what can we do to help our boys grow into men, and productive men, give them a purpose, give them a reason, and an outlet.
Well, and that philosophy is best exemplified by a puppy, right? If you've had a puppy, they're really mouthy and they want to bite and they want to chew.
Yeah, they're gonna.
And they bite your hand too hard, and you smack them on the nose and you stop playing with them, so they know that that's too much force.
Mm-hmm.
We're telling our kids no force. Ever, whatsoever, no force.
Ever.
And it's like, no, there's a certain amount of force that is okay. And that's why they say, like, especially with boys, like rough play is okay. Let them play and wrestle and ruffle each other up. Because not only do they learn what is an appropriate measure of violence, but they also know what it means to actually hurt somebody. If they screw up and they give their friend a fat lip and they feel like garbage, they need to know how that feels.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. Again, a philosophical converation.
Yeah, we could go on for hours. We could do like, episode 2 could be like the conversations like Marcus Aurelius,
Paul and
something like that.
Paul and I talk about doing stuff like that all the time.
Hey, whenever I'm always game for that, for a good conversation, even though I am sober, so I can't do the cigar and whiskey, but I guess I could do the cigar, maybe. Even though I don't smoke anymore either.
We could do Zen and mocktails, whatever you're into.
I like that. There we go. Hey, a Diet Pepsi's fine with me.
Yeah. There you go.
I don't have to be that extra. So, all right, Mike. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure, absolutely, to have you as a guest. Everyone, just so you know, Mike's information will be down here in the comments. Go visit his channel, check out his content. Mike is truly inspirational, and that's the reason we invited him to be on the Rise 41 podcast. So, Mike, best of luck with all the future endeavors. We'll check in with you. Everybody, hit like, subscribe, hit the bell, comment, all that good stuff. And thank you for joining us, and have a great day.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.